Welcome to Lesson 4, where we will look at the advantages in upgrading the hardware, presented by Gustavo Garza. The objectives to these lessons are what components are inside a computer case, computer components and their use, why we should update hardware in a computer. As we saw in Lesson 2, the makeups of the component, also known as hardware devices, are as follows: a motherboard, RAM, CPU, hard drive, optical drive, and the power supply. First, let me point out what is a computer. Although there are many definitions of what a computer is, I like to think of it as a device that can process information. There are three parts that allows for the processing to happen, and they are having an input, a processor, and an output. The hardware components in any computer will eventually get old and obsolete, much like anything else that we own. The problem with the users is that they feel compelled to replace a PC when they see that they cannot run programs or games that might be new to the market. Instead of looking into spending a little money, people decide to scrap their old systems. Well, hopefully this lesson will help in identifying what a person can do to keep from spending. We will start with a motherboard. A motherboard, which is a very complicated component, and for the sake of simplicity, we will say that it is a hardware component that connects all other hardware devices for the sake of the communication. RAM, or volatile memory, is the hardware that allows the computers to temporarily save bits of ones and zeros. The ability to save these bits allows the operating system to execute a program without waiting on the hard drive or other devices for data. The CPU, as mentioned before, is the brain of the computer. This is where the bits of information stored in RAM or any other areas can be manipulated and processed for the desired output. A computer's process is made up of two major companies that are AMD or Intel. This is important because when you're wanting to replace and upgrade the CPU, you need to know which brand of CPU fits the motherboard. The CPU is rated at hertz, either megahertz or gigahertz nowadays. An example of an input-output device is a hard drive. The hard drive comes in certain sizes such as gigabytes or terabytes. The difference is that 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes bigger than the gigabyte itself. Another item when you're looking to replace a hard drive is the speed and rear connections of the data and power supply. The faster the speeds, the more money it's going to cost. The power and data adapters factor into the cost of either IDE, which is the older technology, or SATA, which is the newer technology. Hard drive comes in physical size differences for laptops and PC. An optical drive can be considered an input and output device as well. There are optical drives that come in older computers that only use CDs or can only read CDs. Newer technologies use Blu-ray DVDs to write and read from. Guess which one would cost more? Obviously the Blu-ray. The read and write speeds also factor into the price. As you can guess, the faster the speeds, which is measured in X's, like 10x or 20x, the more expensive the drive. And finally, the power supply. The power supply comes in different form factors and different power ratings. A power supply normally is recognized by the wattage of power it can output. A 600 watt power supply can power more things than a 400 watt power supply. When needing to update a device in a computer, we need to pay attention to the form factor, which is the size and shape. The type of model your computer has, such as the CPU, if it's an Intel or AMD, and another thing to check is the amount of speed, space, and brand of each device. This concludes Lesson 4. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Thank you. Gustavo Garza.